show Vann, where we talk about health, wealth, and spirituality. Today we are here with Pastor Kim. Logan is here in Wichita. She is the pastor of New Beginnings, and she is also the founder of Love God, Love Sex Movement. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm so excited for you to be here. And, as we look at this weekend of love, we look at all the things that are happening in the world. I thought this would be a great time for us to have this conversation around sex. Oh my God, it is such a small word, but it is one of those things that can just raise the blood pressure of most people.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got started in this arena.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Toronto, Canada. Came down here to Wichita to pastor the great New Beginnings SDA Church. As it relates to the movement that I started in around 2019, and it was just really born out of a frustration that I had for not having enough spaces for women of faith that love God, that are spiritual, that are churchy, didn't have a space to talk about their sexuality, to talk about the issues and the concerns they have, the conflict, the frustrations that come with being saved and trying to manage our sexuality in healthy ways. And so I was led to start this online community for women of faith, and it continues to grow and expand into other places. And so it's been a blessing to be able to just facilitate spaces for women that are dealing with sexual trauma, sexual abuse, or even religious sexual shame as well, and just kind of give them space to kind of work out any issues and frustrations they may be having with sex.
So as we think about that, as we think about traumas, as we think about sexuality as it relates to the church, why do you think it's so taboo?
Oh man, I think a lot of it has to do with what we were taught and people's just discomfort. It's so weird because everybody knows that sex is something that has to happen. But for whatever reason, people are uncomfortable with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because of how it's been taught and how it's been packaged in a lot of religious spaces. I think also culturally, within the Western culture, there's just been a discomfort with our bodies, a discomfort with things that pertain to our bodies, and it causes us to be uncomfortable for a variety of reasons, which leads to the church being uncomfortable with it as well. I think also part of it has to do with respectability as well. Mm-hmm. There's just this unspoken rule of this is what a proper person talks about, or doesn't talk about, says and doesn't say. This is how we conduct ourselves. And anybody that falls outside of that unspoken rule is deemed, marginalized. We're not dealing with that. And so who wants to be on the outskirts? Who wants to be on the outside? Everybody wants to be on the in group. So I think it causes people to just, zip up and act like sex doesn't exist to be part of the in crowd.
Well, I think if we, as you talked about that, all of us at some point, obviously our parents had to have sex or we wouldn't be here, because that's how procreation happens. And too often, as we look at it, and as you brought up, there is this piece in which we feel like that someone is deemed good or bad when it comes to sex. And it puts I don't know the word to say, it puts a kind of a shadow over it, so that we have young women who don't know how to walk in their being as being a sexual being. Because at the end of the day, that is part of who we are. Sexuality is part of who we are. And so how do you coach women when the church has told them, to be pious, to be chaste, to be, all of these words that sound really good, but put us in a box?
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with just unlearning a lot of that, and giving them the room to unlearn a lot of these misguided, but well-intentioned. I want to, and let me go on the record. I think people were well-intentioned, but it has, created a lot of toxicity and a lot of oppression around women's bodies. And so what I tend to do as a sex positive pastor is I immediately go to scripture and allow the word of God to free up women, understanding that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And that includes us, and that includes our sexuality as well. And finding ways to honor and celebrate our sexuality in ways that honor God and honor ourselves. And so just kind of working through all the resistance that comes to that, of becoming more integrated. I think a lot of Christian women, it's like there's a compartmentalization. There's the spiritual, and then there's the body and the sexual. And so I use the Bible to just say, look, it's all integrated. It's all spiritual, including your sexuality, whether you're married or not. Like you're always going to be a sexual being. And so there has to be a way to live in this body and still give God the glory with all of it. So that's the first thing I do, is I use the Bible. And then community is huge. Being around other women who have similar struggles, similar issues, and hearing how they're dealing with it, how they're working through it, has been so transformative and so helpful, just to know that I'm not alone, that I'm not by myself on this, has really helped a lot of women get free to see that, okay, well, if she can, I guess, wear a sleeveless shirt today, maybe I can too. And it's not the end of the world. I'm not, impure because my shoulders are showing. I mean, something that's probably extreme, but there are a lot of women that struggle with that.
But I think while we say that's extreme, I think those are the key points of being able to get to that place of freedom, because it is, a lot of the bondage has been put on women as it pertained to what you wore, what you look like, the physicality of women. And, the church is very limiting in the fact that there is a certain look that they want you to have, and that's quote unquote holy. So I think, while that seems very simplistic, it may not necessarily be as simple as what we say.
It's true. I agree. You're right. And I think, you're absolutely correct. There's a look. This is the church girl look. This is the modest look. And if you step outside of that, we need to pray for you, and that's just, it's so much more nuanced than that. Even as we're leading into Valentine's Day weekend, this idea of flirting.
Yeah. Let's bring that one back in just a moment. This is Live Vann, where we're talking about health, wealth, and spirituality. Today we are here with Pastor Kim, and she is talking about Love God, Love Sex movement. We are so happy to have her. We'll be right back. All right, we are back with Pastor Kim, and we are here, and we're talking about Love God, Love Sex movement. All right, we were talking about flirting when it comes to Valentine's Day. Come on, let's talk about that a little bit more, because I think we only think about flirting when it comes to, especially in the church, when it comes to that deacon who, is wrong. Come on now, I'm, for real.
Absolutely.
There's always one in most churches that, they rub your shoulders a little too much. They, you kind of run, to run from them as a little kid, because you like, something ain't right. He's just weird. Yeah.
Very weird.
And so sometimes in the church, we only think about flirting in weird ways, or the pastor flirting with someone, or, things like that. But there is a level in which, if we are sexual beings, as a wife, as a saved wife, I should still be flirting with my husband.
Correct. And not only that, at its base level, flirting is a means of connecting. Flirting does not have to be synonymous with being some, lady of the night. It's a signal for availability. Nothing more, nothing less. We were taught that, smiling too hard at a guy or laughing too hard at his jokes, be careful, woman of God. You don't want to give off, well, wait a minute. I'm single, sanctified, and saved. But if they, the teaching was wait on the Lord, and God will bring the man to you. But there has to be a balance of letting the dude know that, hey, I'm over here. And there's absolutely nothing sinful about that. And for many church girls, you would be surprised. Flirting is like such a, what do I say? What do I do? I don't want to come off as inappropriate. I don't want to come off as doing something wrong. Or the flip side, like you talked about, it's categorized as something sleazy, something that the deacons did. And so you don't want to be associated with that. And so you find yourself being very circumspect and very pleased to meet you, man of God. As if. So yes, within marriage, for sure, absolutely, 1,000% flirt with your spouse. But then also for the single woman, I guess I'm just kind of freeing you up a little bit. Like it's okay to signal availability, and signaling availability is not the same as wanting to have sex with somebody or making yourself seem as if you want to be like, sexually active. Two separately different things.
And I think that may be a problem. Is that we don't know that those are two separate things.
Yes.
Because I think people for a long time have thought that flirting automatically equals now I want to go to bed with you.
Right. And that's not the case at all. It's taking in your femininity and acknowledging that I'm beautiful and I just, deserve to be seen and admired, and living in that context and enjoying the benefits of being a woman. Partly is to be able to, hi, I'm over here. I mean, that's what makes a girl being a girl. You know what I'm saying? So that the guy can be like, okay, let me be a dude and pursue.
So when we think about the idea, and I've been married for 31 years, so it's been a long time since I've had to worry about, trying to catch a dude. Catch mine every day,
right.
Let's be in love again.
Right.
So I think that, as we look at the church, there are a lot of single women. And in talking to single women in their 20s and their 30s right now, one of the things that they keep saying is, dude, there's nobody out here. What's going on?
I have a lot to say on this as a single woman myself in the church. I think there is this idea of scarcity. When in actuality, I'm learning that shifting my mindset around that has been very eye-opening. That it's not that there's not guys out there. It's that maybe I need to work on what I've been taught when it comes to seeking or desiring a spouse and finding a man, and kind of readjusting my lens around what a man of God is and what a quality man is too. I think that's been part of it. I think a lot of Christian women, so that's one. Number two, I think a lot of women of faith were taught to wait on the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. We were taught and, given examples in the Bible as well, that Isaac came and found Rebecca. So, just let me just keep doing what I do, keep getting the water from the well. And one of these days, and Isaac is going to come through and find me. But when it comes to everything else in life, you don't apply that mindset to a job.
That's true.
You get yourself a resume and you start passing those things out. If you want a job, you don't do that when it comes to your finance. You don't do that with anything else in life. But all of a sudden, when it comes to finding a husband, now all I'm going to do right now is I'm going to sit back and just wait to be found. And I think a lot of us were taught that, just kind of wait to be found, and we're still waiting. And so I don't know if it has so much to do with there not being a lack of men out there per se. I do know that there are a lot more women in the church than there are men. That is for sure a fact. However, I'm learning that sometimes part of the reason why there may be this idea of there's not a lot of men is because you're looking to find guys here in this pool, when maybe we need to start expanding and figuring out that maybe there's more to choose from if we chose to expand our mind when it comes to who God wants for us.
We'll come back to that thought.
Okay.
This is Live with Michelle Vann, where we talk about health, wealth, and spirituality. We are here and we're talking to Pastor Kim, and we're talking about the Love God, Love Sex movement. We'll be right back. With Pastor Kim, and we are talking about Love God, Love Sex movement. We are talking a little bit about how do we go about in this 21st century? Is there, you've said that maybe there isn't as much of a shortage as there is this idea of only having a certain pool in which to look at, that if you, not we, because I'm married,
Right.
but if those single women began to look and to see and to expand their idea of what that pool looks like. So as we begin to think about that, where is your stance on internet dating? Or should there even be dating? Because a lot of us were taught back in the day, you shouldn't date, you should just find the person and get married, which I thought was stupid, but hey.
Yeah. I think internet dating is here to stay. It's not going anywhere, just like technology is here to stay. And I think it's an awesome way to meet people. It's a great way to connect. And I know that there may be people that are uncomfortable with it, but just like we've had to adapt and grow to the way that life moves. Dating online is another aspect to grow into. I think 30, 40, 50 years ago, it was pen pals, right? It was writing letters back and forth, right? Then it was talking on the phone. And now it's talking online. That's just, we expand and we grow. And if you want to, if there's a woman that's like resistant to that part of life now, then you have to kind of just reap the benefits or the consequences of that is where I'm at as well. As it relates to dating, I think that absolutely dating needs to be a part of a woman's life if she wants to get married. Obviously, everybody has their own story. Doesn't negate. Some people, like you said, they didn't go through a whole dating process and whatever, and that's okay. And I think it is also the cool thing about scripture, when the Bible is not explicit about something, that means you get to use your discernment. Means you get to use wisdom in how you approach, gray areas. And I think dating is one of those things. I do believe that if women of God are going to engage in dating, there needs to also be a shift around dating for marriage versus just dating to get to know somebody. Right. Just, and not being so tied to the outcome. I know that's something that I had to work on. I was very much focused on, let's see if he's the one, as opposed to, girl, can you laugh with him though? Like, do you enjoy hanging out with him? Like, let's just enjoy his company and see what happens from there. And instead of like being so, narrow-minded and being so focused on marriage can be one of the goals, but if it doesn't happen, that's okay too.
Right. And I think that was for me, that was because I was told that, you shouldn't date, you should just find the person and get married to him. I'm like, that's crazy. What if this joker is crazy? I need to know this first. Well, I need to make him mad. I need to, take his food. I need to do a bunch of things to determine whether or not he's going to be okay with me. And if I'm safe to decide that I'm going to be with this person for the rest of my life. So I don't understand. Go ahead.
Dating also is not synonymous with having sex either. I think that's key. I think that's also why there has been resistance to dating more than one person as well, because they don't want to come off as looking like somebody who's a freak, for lack of a better word, or somebody that's getting around, when, man, I wish, I'm trying to make my church this way. I would love it for church families to make it easier for women and men to date. So, make it easy for me to bring Bob one weekend and bring Jeremy the next, and y'all hang out with him, see how he interacts with the church family, assess, but a lot of times women are nervous to bring more than one guy around because, oh my goodness, she had one guy last week and there's another one, and it's just a lot of, it just makes it difficult. And so I think that dating does not have to be synonymous with sexual activity. And then this also, I think women of faith, one thing that I've had to work on too is also my emotional investment as well.
Yeah.
So, oh my God, I'm going to marry him so quickly and so soon, without vetting him like you're talking about and getting to know him and seeing him in different situations before deciding this is somebody that I really want to settle down with.
And I think that what you said is key, that there's so much tied to, people believe that you should be married by a certain point and you should have kids by a certain point. And there's, these invisible benchmarks that society has placed on women, not on men, but on women, that, all of these things should happen by a certain time. And if you're a certain age, then you haven't gotten married. What's the problem? There's got to be something wrong with you. And so I think you're right. How do we take those burdens off of women of just saying, hey, when you are ready, when you find the one that God has for you, then it's your time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just enjoying the journey and having fun, living a life of sensuality, which is like, to me, which is simply just living a life where you indulge your senses, and enjoy what your eyes can see, enjoy what you can taste and touch and all those things, living a life where you enjoy all of God's creation and not get so hung up on what you don't have or when will I hit the next benchmark, but living a life in your body, enjoying living in the body that God has given you. And so many women, I feel like they're not living their best lives because there is fear around living, whatever that looks like for them. There's fear around enjoying the body that God has given them and what it can do, what it's capable of, experiencing the world. A lot of times women want to wait for a specific benchmark. I'll do this when I get married. I'll do this when I'll do this when, I'll do this when. And I'm saying, I think your love life has a lot to do with the life that you're living. I think the more you're living the best life as a woman, I think the more likely it is. That's not a guarantee. There's no guarantees, but the more likely it is you are to meet people that you can interact with and get to know. And who knows, maybe you might marry one of them.
So whether you're married or whether you're single, if you're living your best life, then you are going to present yourself in a more loving sort of way. When I am comfortable with who I am, when I'm comfortable with my body, when I think you said something that was key, when I'm enjoying all of my senses around me, because I think we get so caught up in work and we get so caught up in duties and, if you throw in the fact that some are single moms or, we get so caught up in all of these things that we quote unquote must do, that we forget to stop and smell the flowers, that we forget to stop and learn what makes us happy, what we like, what we don't like. I think whether you're single or whether you're married, knowing what you like helps you to have much more joy in that.
Absolutely. And you're able to communicate that better, what you like and what you don't like when you know for yourself. I think another reason why women struggle with living a life that they love is they don't think God approves. There's a lot of judgment around indulging the senses. For a woman of faith, Christian woman, so I may love how my body moves to some music. I may love to get a twerk in every now and again, but somebody said that we don't move our bodies that way. That is inappropriate for a woman of God, because you're going to cause somebody to stumble. And so now I'm like this in my body instead of just being able to live in it and enjoy it. With wisdom, with discernment, with self-control. I'm not saying to be out here and just wilding out. But I do think that a woman of God really needs to explore what living her best life looks like as a woman of God, that in a ways that don't compromise her faith, that don't compromise her value or her witness, but allows her to live life to the fullest, regardless of whether she gets married or not.
Which allows you to show up in a space and a place full-hearted, wholehearted, free, and that freedom then attracts a whole nother level of person to you, in you, you know, whether you're trying to be married or whether you're already married. But I think what you're saying makes sense in that when I'm wholehearted, when I am being able to be 100% me, I attract a different crowd.